So, well, let's just start with Best Buy. You have a deal with Best Buy, Cyriac. You used to work at Best Buy, Matt. And your users rate Best Buy.
I used to work at a Computer City.
You used to work at a rival to Best Buy.
A rival to Best Buy. They didn't make it. Maybe it was my fault.
Well, how can Best Buy use location technology? Why does the CTO of Best Buy care about location?
Who are you asking? Why don't you start off since...
So if you look at it from a retailer perspective, the number one problem for every physical retailer, if you ask them and you said, okay, so if everybody who owns a store in America had to agree on the same challenge, and they all had to say, this is my number one problem, the answer you'd likely get is getting foot traffic. In other words, getting people through the door. And why is that? Because the conversion rates in the physical retail world are really good. Online, you're getting about 0.5% to 3% conversion. Offline, it's about 20 to 95%, depending on the category of retail. So in fashion, it's about 20. That's the lowest. That is already 6 or 10 times higher than in the online world. In electronics, 40 to 60. And in groceries, it's 95. And in quick service restaurants, probably 99% because it's unlikely that you go to McDonald's and figure out you're not hungry. So in other words, getting them through the door is the key. Now, if that's so important, then how do you do that? And what are the tools that are available to you to get people to walk in and actually see it? And from a consumer perspective, it's also highly valuable because so far, when you walk into a store, how often do you feel treated really well? How often do you feel treated like a VIP? That was probably 100 years ago when they knew you. Today, when do they find out that it's you? It's the moment when you are leaving. It's when you use your credit card, you slide it. You could call it the first possible worst moment. Because you just slid your credit card, you cannot add one more item to the basket. And that's when they look at you and say, hi, Brady, how are you today? And then you say, I'm doing good, thank you. And they say, bye. So that's obviously not really ideal. So what if you could actually flip that on its head and welcome people as they come into the store? And that's exactly what location technology can do, not with GPS, but with other technologies. And
is that where check-ins come in? Is that what you're seeing, Jeremy?
I think check-ins represent a great opportunity, especially for some of these big brands. We've seen some of these things, but with Groupon, when they do deals and drive people in with an incredible deal, there was the Gap thing. There's also check-in deals, which Facebook recently did, free jeans, also Gap-related. And then for us, we've actually announced that we have a check-in deals product that's launching soon. And I think it's a fantastic way to drive people into the door and know that they're actually coming because you do have GPS, you can recognize it. I mean, there's obviously a difference with your product where they're walking in the door and then their phone buzzes, but still checking in and getting that feedback and knowing that something you did, a marketing campaign that you did, has led to actual customers walking in the door. And you can, of course, then incent them to have a certain behavior, whether it's purchase jeans or if you want to promote certain merchandise. And so I think what you'll see is, especially with these national chains, that's going to be a new interesting marketing channel because there's real feedback. It's not just this promise of spend money with us and maybe customers will come in the door. Now it's moving to spend money with us and we will prove to you that customers have come in the door. And that closes the loop. If you think about what was the critical thing that made AdWords very successful for Google, it was that suddenly someone that's selling flat screen televisions online knows that they bought an ad, they could track that user, came to their site, and then know exactly how much that person spent. And as we get closer and closer to closing that loop from the online world, I find a local business, I walk in the door, I know that they made a purchase or they actually came in and there was a 20% likelihood of them making a purchase. That's really the holy grail for local, and I think that de-risks the advertising for the local business or for the national chain. And that means they can just pour money into the channel because suddenly it's not, hey, let's spend, for a national chain, let's spend millions of dollars and see what happens. It's not, let's spend millions of dollars and look, we got, a positive return on that. So that's very exciting. I think that's generally where we're headed from an advertising standpoint.
How do you think retailers are going to use location 2 years from now, assuming that consumers actually start to adopt this?
So
we live in a culture of immediacy these days. Like, you have to get stuff right now. Like, you go to a fast food place and you expect that within 1 minute you're going to have an entire meal set in front of you. And I think location can be used in such a way of connecting the, say, back ends of inventory management and things like that to where things are nearby. So, for instance, going back to the example of Best Buy, they actually have an API that can track real-time inventory of the stores that are nearby. Now, if you couple something with like a solution like we could provide, which is proximity, what stores are nearby, and things like that, then you'd be able to start building apps that say, what stores are nearby. And not only am I trying to find that out, but I'm trying to find out, okay, I need a black iPod Nano. What's the nearest store that has that specific item? And then I go there. So rather than the old mentality of wasting time of walking into a store and being disappointed that that item is actually not there because it just sold out an hour ago, I can pull up my phone, I can use these location-aware services to say, where am I, and is this item available nearby? And that does work kind of on the, the global brand, the national brand, the Best Buys type of scenarios. But I think that as technology becomes easier to use and these back-end infrastructures start getting commoditized, that you'll find that even the boutique retailers will have that opportunity as well.
Just last week I saw a company demoed up in Seattle called Fuse Rewards, and it's basically an iPad app for casinos to manage the big gamblers, the whales, so they can track like, send Jimmy Joe a Maker's Mark, and he likes chicken wings. And then they can track how they're dealing with their customers. It's a very high-touch industry. Do you see that happening with Best Buy? Like, I walk in and Brady just bought a CD, well, no. Brady bought a CD player like 10 years ago. Probably needs a new one.
Maybe not the gambling part, but what will happen, I think, is that everything is about you. And in the past, a lot of it was about the store. And now it's about you. And the cell phone is basically, imagine it to be like a personal interactive ID card. And as you walk into the store, things happen. What if you could turn an offline store into an interactive world? The trick is you got to know when they walk in. That's the key when the dialogue begins. But then after that, inside the store, how often do you find somebody who really knows what you're looking for and can explain it to you? The cell phone is basically, the smartphone is your interactive device for that. And why would you carry around, if you asked an 18-year-old, how many loyalty cards would you like to carry in your wallet? What do you think they would answer? Which wallet? Because they probably don't have one. So turning this from a plastic card into a two-way dialogue and interaction in the store is the next step. Making the store interactive, holding it over a DVD, and immediately the trailer of the DVD starts playing. And so turn the entire experience into a personalized experience and make offers that matter to you based on the CD player you bought 10 years ago.
So how are we being held, like what's holding us back from this interactive playground? Jeremy?
I think part of it is a technology issue. So first, the Shopkick has a solution, but you still then have a physical device that you have to plant in thousands of stores to detect that. I mean, GPS is helpful, and I think it's driving us there. So you can have check-ins. You can use that to drive loyalty, track the number of check-ins, provide offers as people reach certain thresholds. But to actually get a physical device in the millions of local businesses that are out there and then turn that into something difficult is a huge hurdle. And so maybe there's other solutions that will get us there faster. Could be that the resolution of GPS gets really, really good over the next few years. But I think the technology is the key challenge right now.
Do you think NFC is going to help us out?
NFC?
Near-field communication?
I mean,
what Eric Schmidt demoed on Monday.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think, again, you've got a technology thing, so you have to drive adoption for that. And so, it's going to take time, and it remains to be seen, what device or what technology is going to be prevalent everywhere. And so right now, we're just starting out with nothing. And so you have to work with fairly primitive tools. But we'll see what drives adoption.
I think there are some major barriers that maybe we aren't thinking about, because we do certainly live in this bubble of, oh my God, everything is great and everything is possible. But what sometimes we have to go back and realize is that that same Best Buy that is carrying some of this technology, is being provided from an outside source. But guess what? Every POS or point of sale that you go and swipe your card at after you're done shopping is running Windows 95. We just have to realize that sometimes there are going to be whole aspects of industries that, while we can run as fast as possible and try and make this stuff happen, there's so much of the world that still has to catch up to make these things meet so that we can eventually get to that world of everything is great. But there's still a lot of technology that is going to hold us back for at least a little while longer. And
just to fill everyone in, basically, Cyriac, could you hold that up? So what Shopkick does is they send out these boxes. It emits a silent tone, and if you're running the Shopkick app, when you walk in to the store, it will immediately place you there, and you're rewarded for that. And it's dealing with the problem of indoor positioning. You don't know, your phone doesn't necessarily know that you're there. You can do false check-ins, and this way it's validated. So it's kind of maybe not a stopgap solution, because we're going to be stuck with GPS for the near future for location.
Yeah, the problem we were trying to solve is actually we didn't build the company around the technology. We built the technology around the company because we had to. Because the idea was, we asked a simple question. If foot traffic is the #1 problem of every physical retailer, then why does nobody ever reward anybody for visiting a store? Why only for purchases? What if you could pay, like you pay Google for click traffic, what if you could pay Shopkick for foot traffic? But in order to do that, you would have to change the behavior of the user, because what the retailer is really interested in is not just that you tell your friends where you are. The retailer wants an incremental visit, one more visit. How do you do that? If you want to change behavior, you need to provide an incentive. So we created a rewards program for walking in. It's the first one where you just walk in and says, welcome to Target. You just got 75 kickbucks. Welcome to Macy's. You just got 60 kickbucks. And in order to do that, you need to know super accurately where you are, because it's unlikely that a chief marketing officer of a retailer wants to pay you for being in the parking lot, or worse, next door at a competitor store. And so the accuracy of GPS on cell phones is about 50 to 1,000 yards. And when you open the app up at first, when it starts trying to get a fix, it's about 500 yards on average. So that means you know on which block the person is on, which vicinity, that the user is in the vicinity, but you don't know that they're present. And in order to do that, we developed this device that's based on the inaudible audio signal, and it works without GPS inside malls and so on. But it was required not because we thought it was a great idea at first. We needed to do it, and now it's deployed in 1,000 stores.
So now that a lot of local business models are converging around physical presence, where do you see Yelp going in that direction? How do you plan on taking advantage of that?
Yelp is all about local businesses, things with a specific address. It's not just about check-ins. It's about finding great local businesses and also then sharing information around them. So we've been around for a long time. Mobile represents, I think, the future of the company. We have 2.6 million active monthly users, not just downloads, but literally people checking. And the intensity of the usage is pretty phenomenal. So now we're driving north of 30% of total search traffic is coming from our LBS service. So it's really exciting, and I think marrying that up with this check-in, this location-aware stuff is going to be a fantastic way to drive local business. I think part of the challenge, of course, is knowing, okay, did people really go there, and how do you solve the gaming aspects? But you can get there through things like creating a check-in offer that is a discount. So when that discount's actually presented to the business owner, or if there's a barcode and you scan that with the point-of-sale system, that essentially is going to prove to that retailer that this thing is actually working, that it's driving business. And therefore, you can then create this whole cycle of ad spend, leading to people walking in the door, leading to cashing in of offers, which gives you your ROI. You know that you're actually making incremental sales with that advertising spend. So I think as that cycle completes, we're going to be at a really exciting time.
Now, Groupon has really taken the local businesses by storm. You've added daily deals. Facebook has. Is Shopkick going to end up doing that? Is every kind of kind of location-based consumer service going to converge on sort of the same business models, and then I'm going to walk into a store, check in on Foursquare, quick, Facebook, quick, Shopkick, just so I can get like every reward coupon?
I think the short answer is
yes.
No, not really. We're coming from the large retailer angle because we are building large partnerships. So we said we want to create a rewards program that is so simple that you can earn everywhere and you can spend everywhere. And so we signed up. Best Buy was the first partner, and Macy's and American Eagle and Sports Authority and Simon Malls, the largest mall operator, and yesterday Target and today Wet Seal. So we're building an alliance. And now thinking about the small businesses, that would be great to add. The faster scale is the large players at first, and Yelp has done an unbelievable job getting the local businesses to the table. But we started with a large retailer so far.
I think there's going to be another angle here that goes beyond just deals, and it's about learning more about customers in their own stores as well, and using location technology, and not just, you know, a check-in, for instance. Like, location technology means so much more than just a check-in, obviously. But for instance, using a combination of a bunch of different location things like weather. You know, look, weather is inherently location-based, right? Because it's where I'm standing, whatever the weather is, and things like communication near a particular location, so Twitter and all these things. If you start combining all of these sources of data, then you start being able to extrapolate certain kinds of information. So, you know, correlating sales data against all of the rest of these trends. If I were to take, you know, a Starbucks as an example, and I notice in a particular area that based on trends, all of these Starbucks are doing really well, but man, that one on this corner is not doing very well today. And using some of this location-aware technology, I can start to understand maybe why. Maybe the weather was really crappy that day in that particular area. Maybe somebody tweeted on Starbucks that the barista was smelling on that particular day. And so I can start to learn these little tidbits of information that by looking at the world as a whole and having a coordinate attached to each one of these data points, it can completely change, you know, business analytics and the way that I can understand my business. So it's both on the front end, you know, when I walk into a store and buy something, but it's also on the back end, what happens after that purchase is made and what can I learn from that purchase.
How do you think, let's just talk about some of the elephants in the room, or maybe they aren't in the room right now, but Facebook just launched their Places API. They've launched check-ins, they've launched daily deals. How does Facebook entering this market affect things? I know you're partnering with them, Jeremy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, they've exposed their data via API, and it's a two-way API. So when you check in on Yelp, you can push that to Facebook, and it goes into their Places system, and vice versa. If you now check in via Facebook, that gets pulled into the Yelp app, and you can see where your Facebook friends are, even if they're not checking in to Yelp. You know, I think it's a natural for them. They have a great presence on the mobile device. You know, it's easy, obviously, to get someone's location. It's easy to get the data of where, you know, what businesses are around. And so I think they'll continue to move in that direction. But at the end of the day, I think Facebook is really about, you know, connecting with people that you know, connecting with your friends, and communicating. And it's not necessarily, you know, a focused application around the local search problem, or, you know, what are the greatest businesses around me and so forth. So I would expect them to focus more on the social angle, but there is a fantastic, you know, ad opportunity for them, which I'm sure they'll take advantage of as well.
Matt?
Facebook's a great example of taking an existing experience, adding one extra thing, which happens to be location, creating a whole new experience around it. And I think that all of the incumbents in the room, the elephants, if you say, you know, the Googles of the world, the Facebooks of the world, you know, all of these guys are going to find ways and angles to slightly manipulate their business models by just adding location. Like, you know, what's interesting to me is looking on this map. You know, you have social as one bit, and location as one bit, and payments as one bit. The truth is you know, just like the current existing world, when I'm existing in the United States, I can still go get my Italian food, you know. So what's going to happen is you're going to see the social network world start to have bits of location and payments and all these things. And it's not going to be, location is not going to be exclusive to location-based services. We're going to see, like with Facebook, location-aware services. Like they just become location-aware. There's just location added as a component of it. So that's sort of the future that I see, which is just there's a new layer. You know, we had social as a layer that Facebook introduced across the entire web and apps and all these things. Now location is the next layer that gets set on top of the rest of it.
And where do you guys see Google affecting things in the future? How are your interactions going to be with Google's Places, Maps, Latitude, potentially?
So I think that both Facebook and Google are actually kind of two great elephants. Because yesterday, Mark Zuckerberg said that something is missing on the map, which is the uncharted territory. And with the social elements, and with NFC, Eric Schmidt announcing NFC, which I thought was awesome. If you combine those and you bring that together into new application layers, new services for the consumer, that's when it gets really exciting. And if the social graph can help, and NFC can help, and walk-in technologies can help, then there is one result in the end if we do it right, which is that the consumer is for the first time really the boss, which is exactly what should be. That's where the power should be. And if you think about the web of the future and online, and all of us obviously in this room are in the online world, I would say that the future of online is in offline. Because that's exactly where it has been missing. That's the next big frontier, and that's the uncharted territory.
So Matt, your business is all based around helping basically developers add location. What are the pain points for them right now? If they're making a product, like what do they need help with?
They need, they need the oil, they need the lubrication layer that gets them in, and they can get just whatever they need. The GPS side of things is done. We figured that out. So 5 years ago, that was the biggest challenge. Like, how do we locate somebody? Well, we're past that now. And now that we have that taken care of, we provide a solution that means that they don't have to even think about the math that's required to be able to take one point, correlate it with another point, and figure out the distance between the two. All that's taken care of. So by providing this sort of API that can mean that anything that I need to do with location is just essentially solved. And even if it's not just us, even if there's us in combination with Facebook taking the social angle and Google taking the big data angle, by combining these solutions, developers now have at their disposal an incredible amount of tools that whatever they can think of for location can be done. Now the challenge right now isn't in that the tools exist. The tools are there ready to go. It's that our imaginations currently are kind of captured by this check-in. Everybody is getting involved in the check-in, even Yelp is seeing there's some really cool stuff being done with the check-in and things that you're able to do, beyond the review and stuff like that. So the check-in is an important thing, but getting beyond the check-in is even more important, where it's like location becomes just something that is embedded in every application. And so now that we have the tools available, we can get to that point, but now it's what our imagination is limited to. What can we think of? What can we create that is part of location? And I think that's the biggest challenge right now, is not the technology. It's our own limited imaginations. Like there are so many things that can be done. It's now, what can we do?
All right, any parting thoughts before we let everyone go to lunch?
Everybody wants food, and I can see
that.
Okay,
well, thank you all very much for joining us today.